K-pop stans, Dream stans, Valorant players, Swifties, Sonic fans, Friday Night Funking, Bronies, Furries, and most definitely Has-Been Hotel fans, and maybe Jujutsu Kaisen fans as well. These are all communities where their reputation precedes them, mostly because from the outside, for one reason or another, a lot of them are described like they are the Nickelbacks of the internet, with the general assumption all participants of said groups radiate just as much ionizing cringe as the people that unequip their entire lower half just to use a public urinal. I didn't mention One Piece or Dragon Ball Z fans there for a reason, because I would rather not have the cartel after me, or my street address posted online after just saying a single negative thing about either of them. Hell, if you even say you're a fan and you haven't watched all 1000 episodes with subtitles and you don't know which one of Luffy's nuts stretch the lowest, they will not consider you a fan and will publicly shit on you for attempting to be one. But anyway, these communities have a reputation like this down to one similarity they all share, which is usually the smallest percentage of the community that commonly accounts for 5 to 10% of the whole fan base, that are usually the loudest, most visible part and the first thing outsiders encounter, which results in that instance being their initial and possibly only perception of the entire community. Even though the rest of the community may not be like this at all, they may just be silently enjoying that form of media or hobby, but unfortunately they will still share said reputation just for being associated with that thing. But those parts of the community are the ones that are seen the most, and are the people that either enjoy that form of media so much it will often be the only thing they post about, they are overly enthusiastic or serious about it to the point where it starts to become obnoxious or feel like they're trying to force it down your throat. Sometimes they base their entire personality around it, they mirror their own interests onto it, they obsess over it. In the worst cases, they cannot distinguish fiction from reality, and if you say anything about it that can even be remotely interpreted as negative, they will treat it like you have just slapped their elderly grandmother with a flaccid penis. And at some point it goes well past just simply enjoying that thing, which with all that said results in a reaction or use of the word cringe when the community is described by someone outside of it. And I think that is a common symptom many communities face when the media or topic it's based on becomes extremely popular, to the point where people that avidly enjoy it or have been there since it was a niche have to start hiding they ever had an interest in it. And there's nothing you can do to stop this, no matter how much gatekeeping is deployed. Once it graduates from a niche to mass consumption, you either deal with it, move on, or forever complain about it. There's no other option. But with all that said, there is one community that stands above the rest when it comes to this. Their history of transgressions against humanity has been well documented. They were actually often described as the LeBron James of hated communities. Previously, in their prime, just uttering the name of it was enough to inspire a visceral reaction from a normal person, and that community was the My Hero Academia fandom. Yes, My Hero Academia, the anime that was basically about a teenager becoming the top hero without originally having powers, in a world filled with powers, heroes, villains, and apparently the French. And by the end of it, spoiler alert, he does become the top hero, kind of, but then in the ending he sort of gets cooked and tossed to the side, which was still a better ending than Attack on Titan, and they actually added more and changed the ending of My Hero Academia in the manga and anime because people hated it that much. But yes, this was a community that was commonly only described with either the words cringe or toxic. In fact, did you know even Jeffrey Epstein was a fan of My Hero Academia? Now that was a complete lie, but you believed it! But with how much this community was previously hated from the outside and the current state of the world, I wouldn't be surprised if you did believe it. But he was apparently a Steins Gate fan, so do with that what you will. Also, I know I did a video on this almost 2 years ago now, but today, different than that video, I wanted to look into why this community more than others was hated so much, where said hate came from, and since the anime has recently ended, is the hate for it still as prevalent? But first, how did My Hero Academia and the community surrounding it come to be?
Deku, stop! Deku, I said stop diggling me!
Holy bazookas. Was that your butt?
So My Hero Academia was first introduced to the world through the manga that released in the weekly Shonen Jump in 2014. Shonen Jump is like a manga or magazine that usually contains the latest chapters of a variety of different mangas, and if a manga lands in the Shonen Jump, it's seen as a big thing as a lot of people read it in Japan, and it's where a lot of popular series like One Piece and Naruto initially received a lot of attention and was an essential tool in their later success. The author of My Hero Academia is Kohei Horikoshi, who before he started working on My Hero Academia, he had published other mangas such as Barraged, Omadoki Zoo, and a bunch of one-shots like the manga My Hero published in 2008. And if you couldn't tell, this was My Hero Academia before My Hero Academia existed. The main character is even called Jack Midoriya, a name shared with the later protagonist of My Hero Academia. They also shared a similar character design and backstory. This person also had no powers or a quirk in a world where they are heavily involved in day-to-day life, and despite being quirkless like Deku, he wanted to still fight monsters or villains, with the only significant difference between the two being this character was a 25-year-old businessman and not a high schooler. The author actually really liked this idea but didn't consider developing it till around 2013, where a year prior his manga Barrage was cancelled after 2 volumes, and after being devastated with this, he decided to give the concept another shot, but in an attempt to cater to the Shonen Jump audience, he further refined the concept to the setting of a high school instead of a workplace, and with a main character significantly less emo. And thus My Hero Academia was born and saw somewhat instant success, being nominated for an award a year after its release in 2015, and in the same year the anime adaptation of the manga would be announced and begin production, with the first episode being released in April of 2016. And by 2017 the manga would reach over 10 million sales. So My Hero Academia most certainly hit the ground running, and so did the community. As with the release of the first season of the anime, it would lead to the title becoming increasingly popular, and it even became somewhat of a gateway drug for those that have never watched anime before, as by 2018 it was almost everywhere, which is unfortunate because that's when the anime started to become absolute dog shit. I'm sorry, but past season 3 it was terrible, and it only got better around the end of season 6, and you can actually chew on my freshly exported kidney stone if you defend season 4 to the first half of season 6. Anyway, around 2021, My Hero Academia would hit its overall peak in popularity. It was deemed to be on the same level as other titans in the anime industry. It was mentioned and present on almost every platform, and you could not escape it. However, with its extreme popularity came somewhat of an adverse side effect, and that was now that it was considered a mainstream anime, the community was now so large, it cultivated an environment of people that maybe loved the anime a bit too much, to the point where some could say it became a bit cringe.
We're not done! Daddy isn't done speaking! You will come back here! Daddy demands you to come back!
So at the peak of My Hero Academia's popularity in 2021 is when things like My Hero Academia cringe compilations started showing up on multiple platforms. And they got a lot of attention, gathering millions of views, and like most cringe compilations, they were a place for people to either physically recoil and curl their toes at the actions being committed in front of them. I still can't believe this was a video, by the way. Or some just watch these videos to laugh at the people doing things they never thought they themselves would do, or there's the rare occasion narcissists watch these videos to use it as a confidence boost. But yeah, around 2021 people outside and within the My Hero Academia community began to really notice how potentially corny the fanbase was. And this was partially down to things like My Hero Academia fatigue. Once again, this show was everywhere. It had multiple seasons, multiple movies, multiple games, and it was glazed as the best anime numerous times, mainly by the fans of it, much to the disagreement of people who actually watched other animes like the peak that is Code Geass. People were just getting tired of it at this point and the supposed blind glazing behind it, but that is somewhat normal for a large anime. One Piece, for example, has been milked just as much as My Hero Academia and glazed 10 times more, but that series is still nowhere near as infamous as My Hero Academia because overexposure alone isn't the only reason it has its reputation, because it's more to do with the community surrounding the anime more than the anime at all. Now, My Hero Academia was mainly picked up by younger audiences, which is no surprise since its intended target audience was teens to young adults. And with themes like heroes and villains and a world where almost everyone, except the cook, by default has a quirk, which is not only going to increase initial interest in the anime from said target audience, but also increase interest in the overall concept, as they may start doing things like making their own characters with their own quirks, and then it basically becomes a power scaling issue because my OC Nagasaki Man can destroy your OC and one-shot the whole cast of characters in the show because he's that powerful. But because a lot of the fanbase are young, most are unemployed, they get easily obsessed with things because when you're that young you don't have priorities or worries, and maybe they have unrestricted access to devices without strong self-awareness, which results in what we saw with this community, a bunch of kids and teenagers expressing their interest and love for this show, which isn't inherently a bad thing, they're having fun I guess. It's just in some cases, unfortunately it led to a reaction of cringe from third parties.
Kitty.
Don't call me Kitty.
Okay, I won't. Kitty.
If they kiss, I'm gonna puke.
What? Wait, no. Fine.
And there was a lot of this from the My Hero Academia community, not only people expressing their interests in the show, but interest in things like ships, which is wanting a character to have a relationship with another character even if they have never been in the same room or shared any dialogue together. And in the case of My Hero Academia, this was one of the main topics posted about within the community, and some within said community took it way too seriously. On top of the fact some of the ships made no sense and some were just very weird. But it's safe to say that in their prime, the My Hero Academia community was infatuated with the idea of shipping. It was like 80% of what was posted at that time. People created montages of their favourite ship, in-depth lore videos explaining how even if these characters may hate each other in the show, that was actually a diversion implemented by Horikoshi because those characters are actually both gay and both are heavily in love, and you can't tell them otherwise. And then you also had people who cosplayed as their favourite ship, and in some cases created their own scenarios involving said ship. But it did eventually get worse, because you had people, as said, take it way too seriously to the point where they would start a whole crusade if someone said anything negative about their ship, or heaven forbid shipped a character a part of their ship with somebody else. This led to a lot of infighting within the community, like guerrilla warfare infighting. It was quite common to see things like death threats and general abuse launched from one ship to another, and it even escalated to the point where these people would get angry and spike their cortisol if the show or even the manga remotely suggested their ship, which already had a 1% win rate of happening, was not in fact going to be canon. A key example was with the Bakugo and Deku ship, where in the show and manga it heavily suggests Deku and Araka have an interest in each other, instead of Deku being interested in the guy who bullied him for over half his life, and unfortunately for those fans the story was not going to curve in a way where all along it was some tsundere I actually like you but I'm going to act like I hate you type shit. And in the chapters where it shows Deku is obviously interested in Araka, the Baku Deku fans would lose their shit. In one event, shippers even started spamming the creator's social media because they wanted him to make their ship happen, which wasn't the first time the creator was targeted for some of the story choices he made for My Hero Academia. Around 2021, he would receive an influx of death threats due to the fact in the story he made it look like the character Endeavor, who initially was this terrible abusive father, was on some sort of redemption arc where he realised how much of a shit stain he was and was trying to improve himself and the relationship with his kids, and because Horikoshi was slowly fleshing him out as a half-decent character, some people online thought he shouldn't be portraying this fictional previously abusive character as anything but a bad person, so they sent him death threats. Over a fictional character, by the way. But events like this, the overexposure, the excessive posting, and the shipping, all were responsible for where the community is to this day and having the reputation of being toxic, cringe, and one of the worst anime communities. But said reputation came about during the peak of its popularity, around 2021, and it's been some time since then. The main anime has recently ended, Yes, there is a spin-off anime that got a decent amount of attention, but not as much as the main storyline. And My Hero Academia in general is no longer as popular as it previously was. And a lot of the people within the community have grown up and moved on since then. So it begs the question, in the current year, is the My Hero Academia community still just as cringy and toxic, or has it gotten worse or better? Well, looking at it today, things have definitely calmed down. Regarding the cringe, it's more people doing it for irony's sake, less people doing it without self-awareness. Don't get me wrong, the community is still active, but it's more just edits, animations, and people reminiscing over how cringe it used to be. You do get the odd post claiming how other anime communities are doing the same things they were doing in 2021, but they don't get as nearly as much as they did. A common example used is the Chainsaw Man community. I still can't get that one fucking "We Came to Goon" audio out of my head after Instagram Reels exposed it to me. There's also the Jujutsu Kaisen community, but to be fair, they have enough self-awareness to know they are posting cringe and brain rot. Regarding Toxicity, it's significantly improved, especially with things like the game of battleships. There are still posts involving ships, but a lot less, and there's less arguments surrounding them. They seem to have adopted a less aggressive approach, even if there is a ship that contradicts theirs. But yeah, to me it seems like a lot of the core fanbase has grown up or moved on since it ended. And that has led to a lot of the problems and cringe this community was known for being less prevalent. It's actually quite tame now compared to its prime. But even with that said, it still has a dog shit reputation, and admitting you're a My Hero Academia fan in the current day will still result in a prompt decline to your social credit score.
Kachan, sing the song, please! Fine, I'll sing it, Deku! Kachan, you can call me Kachan.
So in conclusion, I have a confession to make. I used to be a My Hero Academia fan. Which is not really a fucking secret. The videos I made when I was still a little sperm cell are still on this channel, and I've been very open about it. I wasn't like a die-hard fan, I never really got into ships, I just liked the story and the characters. I even had multiple My Hero Academia phone cases for multiple years, which did lead to bullying. But eventually, as I grew up, I got less interested in it, especially as I was introduced to other animes. But yeah, I was a cringe My Hero Academia fan in the past as well, so I have the credentials to make this video. Fuck you. The community back then was a vastly different place compared to where it is today, but even if it has changed, the reputation is still there. It's still known as one of the most cringy, toxic communities, and it's going to stay that way till another community takes that title. But as said before, there are a few competitors right now, but they have a long way to go till they surpass My Hero Academia. But yeah, just something I wanted to talk about today. I hope you get sperm cramps, and that's all I had to say, and bye bye.